Body shot. Ooh, that hurt, didn't it?
When adrenaline starts pumping and you know what you can do with this right hand, it's hard to not do that.
Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the Bloody Water Podcast. We got a lot to talk about this weekend, man. We had UFC Vegas 33, aka UFC Fight Night 194. We had Bellator 263, man. A lot of action, championship matchups, big time main events, and a lot of stuff in between. Even though we were really going to be mainly covering the UFC today and the decimated card that was UFC Vegas 33, we got a lot to talk about still. So I'm going to bring in the New Mexico native, the Santa Fe Bomber, and he's actually there. He's native. You in the hometown, you know what I'm saying? You back. How was your weekend, brother? How you living?
It was pretty good, brother. It was pretty good. You know, as you could tell, I don't have the same setup. We moving a little bit. I'm going to be in Austin, Texas coming up this next week. But right now I'm here in the great state of New Mexico. And it's been well, man. I had some crackheads still in my chair. But, you know, other than that, we living good out here. How you been, brother?
Oh, I'm living good, man. See, it's these times of flux, these times of transition where you always got to test your character, go back to your roots and be like, okay, man, I'm back home. This is what we do. But listen, man, this is called the Bloody Water Podcast for a reason. We gritty, you know what I'm saying? We really about it. So glad to hear everything is going well for you. As for my weekend, man, just settling in still, watching some great fights, all that, preparing for this podcast because, like I said, I'm going to say it a million times, we got a lot to cover today, man. So let's not mince words. Let's talk about some record recap real quick, AJ. I went 3-2. You went 1-4, but I do have to say that we had a little bit of mix-up weirdness. The main card shifted 10 times, you know, by the time fight night came around. We had 10 bouts on this card, and I think there was a total of 11 cancellations. So however that works, you know what I'm saying? This is one of the few times you get more cancellations than you actually had bouts. But with that being said, folks, let's really break it down, man. So AJ, I want to talk about something before we actually jump into some recap and some all of that good stuff, man. I want to talk about a segment that we're going to be bringing up. So this is just a little bit of a preview for the folks who are listening at home and watching and all that good stuff. We're going to be talking about our fighter of the night. You always hear fight of the night. You hear performance of the night, all that good stuff. We're going to bring on this new topic of who stood out the most, storylines, performance, all of those things intertwined, and who just gave you that feel good, you know, like, oh man, after I watched this, that's who stood out to me the most. So folks, just know that is coming up. We're gonna talk about that in just a few moments. You know, forgive me for the stumbles and whatnot, but let's move on to some recap really quickly, AJ. I want to start off with the photo collection, then we're going to talk about some prelim stuff, and then we'll get into the main card, man. So you know what we do best. Always have to start it out with the best photos of the weekend. And AJ, I want to ask you this, man. I'm going to read it to you. This is just a tweet that I wanted to get your take on because this is one of your boys. So Cheeto Vera, he tweets out, yo, clown, at Sugar Sean MMA, referring to Sean O'Malley. He says, want to try your luck again since nobody wants to fight. And to me, I'm like, you know, listen, we had mixed reviews about how the fight went originally, right? You could say if Sugar Sean's ankle didn't get, you know, flatlined or whatever you want to call it, that fight could have played out very differently. How do you feel about the call out, my man?
I think it's a bad move on Cheeto Vera's part. There's nothing worse than calling out somebody you already beat, because technically he got that dub. You know, at the end of the day, he earned 2 paychecks. He got his hand raised. So, I mean, that means he won. And it's a bad look when you're basically picking on somebody you already beat, even though Sean O'Malley is still undefeated in his mind and kind of in the mind of the media. So it's I feel like it was a bad PR move for Cheeto Vera, but I can see why he's trying to get that Sugar Show hype back and really get the actual win he feels like he deserves. What do you feel about it?
Well, I think that this goes to show how much of a draw Sean O'Malley is. To beat the dude and then be like, well, nobody else wants to fight. You want to try it again, Sean? What's up? You know, I need to boost up those rankings. So you're going to fight a dude who's not in the rankings to boost yourself up the rankings, which is the anomaly of what the UFC is. Sometimes the stars, man, they dictate the action, and that's what it seemed like today, man. But I'm going to move on to this next photo, and this came from a prelim. This was actually one of the main card bouts that we covered that got bumped to the prelims. This was Ryan Benoit versus Zaruk Arashev, and I just want to show you what happens when you refuse to check a kick over the course of 15 minutes. That is the leg of Ryan Benoit, and he said, this is an Instagram picture that he posted, and he even said, he was all like, man, if the fight was longer, I'd still be chasing him around. You know what I'm saying? Over there trying to headhunt and do all that stuff, man. Disappointing decision at the end of the day for Ryan Benoit. He did not try to grapple at all. He did not use any of his wrestling experience. Instead, he tried to go Muay Thai versus a kickboxer, and the kickboxer won at the end of the day. How bad did that leg hurt, do you think, man? That's one of those Uriah Faber-esque type, you know what I mean, swollen up body parts. What do you think?
Man, that looks so bad. It literally looks like a grapefruit is inside of his calf, man. It made me choke up. That's so bad. Oh my God. No, but for real, I bet that's on a scale of 1 to 10, an 8, 9 at least. That thing looks horrible.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I will have to say, folks, that, let me get this to the side. I will have to say this is probably one of the worst legs that I've just seen, man, just from refusing to check a kick time and time and time again. He was smacking it down. He was limping after like 3 of these. In total, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but folks, he probably landed upwards of 15 calf kicks to that same leg time and time and time again. So that was definitely ugly, man. But listen, man, move on to the next one. So this is probably one of my favorite photos to see once again, because it just goes to show like the wars that we're able to have, and these two dudes brought it, man. We had Chris Grutzmacher facing off against Rafa Garcia, and listen, I think Rafa Garcia was favored in this one, but Grits, his nickname is Grits for a reason. The dude is gritty, man. Just give me your take on the photo.
Ooh, Grits came to bang in this fight, brother. It was a great aspect, and even in this photo, you can see he's timing that left check perfectly. So it's one of those, I feel like this is one of those ones that deserves to be on the wall as well, man. This is a good looking photo of perfect timing. Bah, nice solid shot on there.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is a great photo, man, and this is even better. So I'm going to shout out an Instagram page after this one. This is on Instagram at unanimous_draw, and I just found out about this page today, and I just saw he does a bunch of artwork for a bunch of, combat sports, not just UFC, but all the different combat sports and whatnot. And I was like, man, to have for this fight to stand out, for this person to want to draw this fight out of all the fights that we had on the card, it goes to show, man, that stood out in the heart and in the minds of the fans at home. So that was just a really cool picture. You don't even have to comment on that one, but shout out to unanimous_draw. Go follow him on Instagram. This next photo that I got right here, AJ, this is just grit determination. This is something that I really enjoy to see, especially out of one of my sleepers. So we have Jinh Yu Frey looking like she's just ready to piece up Ashley Yoder. Now, the fight wasn't as one-sided as the scorecard may have indicated, but I will say Jinh Yu Frey picked up a big win, kept the fight on the feet, and yeah, man, that's just intensity in her. Even though she might have like a broken orbital or something crazy, intensity in her face. What do you think about that?
This is great because I think this is the shot she was landing the whole time. That jab was on point for Jinh Yu Frey literally the entire time. And I had it scored 29-28 for Jinh Yu Frey as well. I don't know how they did the 30s on him, but it was a good fight. And, yeah, you can see that jab was working that whole time. And this, for me, this is Ashley Yoder, correct? So I don't get the name wrong.
Yeah.
Ashley Yoder had them alligator arms trying to grab, and not always, if you ever get coached, they say don't put out the alligator arms. That's how you get tagged. And sure enough, you can see it right there, getting tagged up.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. Big win for Frey, and this is a pretty big setback for Yoder, who was a solid prospect coming up. She has now lost 2 fights in a row. But now this is one of the biggest names, one of the biggest performances of the weekend of the main card, and we're going to start it off with just that picture-perfect kick for Cheyanne Buys, the warrior princess, man. She gets retribution, and listen, Gloria de Paula, she is on the agony end of the spectrum this time around, 2 losses in a row. But just how perfectly timed was that kick, AJ?
I think Gloria de Paula's hand was up above the canvas, maybe an inch. Yeah. Just literally just pulled it up just enough to not get Peter yawned. But it was perfect timing and an amazing fight by Cheyanne Buys.
Absolutely.
Buys, excuse me.
Yeah, Buys, but absolutely. And it's one thing that she said, because one of the reporters in the post-fight was all like, hey, that kick might have been illegal. We were kind of thinking that. And she was all like, that was God's timing. God was with me on that one. I was like, yeah, it had to be something. Praise the sun. That was on something else. But this is the next photo that is attached to this that really, this is heartwarming to me, man. This is one of those like, wow, this is big time. And this is going to be Cheyanne Buys' reaction after learning that she just earned the $50K performance bonus. That's her face, literally, in the moment. She was saying, man, she was all like, listen, on my account, I'm in the red right now. I'm negative. Like, I've been broke my entire life because of this sport. I moved here. I took a risk, left my home in Dallas, Texas, moved back to Vegas, where she's originally like from and whatnot. And man, this was just super, super heartwarming. What do you think about that? And what does that say about the current state of MMA, like finances, man? You shouldn't be broke like that being at this high of a level, right?
You're a professional athlete and you're in the red. It's kind of crazy, especially because let's say she didn't win this fight. she still had everybody to pay. You know, she still had her coaches. She still had everything. So it's speaks to all the chaos out there. You know, everybody reaching out saying that Dana White needs to pay fighters more. But I think what needs to happen is not necessarily Dana White pays fighters more, but the fighters realize that you got to sign a bigger contract in the jump. You know, especially if you know you're going to be, or you don't know you're going to be a big star eventually. But yeah, I definitely think the starting contract needs to be a little higher than what they're making.
Absolutely. And obviously, I mean, she's not very experienced, not the biggest draw, to be honest, right? She's very young in her UFC career, but she said she made 10 and 10 on this fight. And she had to pay basically all of that back to a loan that she had to take to get a house. So it's like, fortunately, get the $50K. Of course, it is taxed. Actually, in Vegas, there's no income tax in the state of Nevada. So not really sure how that works out. But hey, man, big time, man. And just seeing that face right there, just, you know, just like, yeah, like she got hit with the Holy Ghost, man. Something crazy like that. But this next photo right here, AJ, this is just a funny one. This is a meme. So shout out to the page that I got it from. I think it says on the photo, but this is Dana White's worst nightmare. But it's hilarious to see. You see Khabib in a Bellator shirt because he was cornering his cousin and a couple other fighters over there on the Bellator, the 263 event. And Dana White just over there dead, man. Did you ever think that you would see Khabib in a Bellator t-shirt? You know what I'm saying? Representing?
No. I was kind of shocked when he came out with his own brand, little Fit Roo, whatever that's called, because he got his own swag. But Khabib in a Bellator shirt is kind of crazy. But I mean, Coach Khabib, that's it. That's the future right there. We can't even joke because Coach Khabib is on a whole nother level. So I'm expecting to see him in a ONE FC shirt next.
Yeah, right. He's rivaling James Krause for Coach of the Year type, situations right there. But all right, man, these are the last couple ones before we move on to some actual recap, man. This is just craziness right here. This is a very intimate close-up picture of AJ McKee, the mercenary, choking out Pitbull Freire with his own move, man. This is his move. This is Pitbull's move, is the standing guillotine. To get him out with it was so impressive. But I'm going to do this series of photos, and then I want you to comment on it. So this next photo we have right here, this is just, I mean, that's beautiful, man. AJ McKee in Los Angeles. He has the featherweight championship around his waist. He's popping champagne. He's doing a thing. And this last photo right here is just what you always want to see out of a high-stakes rivalry like this. And that's absolute class between Pitbull and AJ McKee. So, AJ, you tell me about AJ McKee's performance, and just tell me what you thought. Just tell me what you thought overall about like how large of an event this was. Comment on the photos, and this is big time. This is history in the making right here, man.
Like you said, Derick, history in the making for sure. They held this one at the Forum in Los Angeles. Super huge event, and the three pictures you showed are like spectacular pictures, man. Like great camera. Like I don't even have the words for it, man. This is super impressive, and not only to drop Pitbull with a head kick and then an uppercut and then standing, hit him with his own move in the standing guillotine. Man, super impressive. And I actually caught it on your Instagram. So go check out Derick's Instagram if you want to see some highlights up there. But he literally even looks at the ref. He's like, yo, he's out. Yep. He's out. Get him. It was damn impressive from AJ McKee. And it's crazy to see that these two spectacular fighters going at it, man. It's especially with this last picture you're showing, awesome respect going in with the streamers. Yeah, this is what the sport is all about right here.
Exactly. And if we have time, we'll comment on this a little bit more later. But Pitbull was very humble in defeat. He was like, I got to say congratulations to him. He's the champion now. But he was like, guess what, man? I still got a belt. I'm still the 155-pound champion. And this is his first loss in like 6 years, dude. And when he did have that loss 6 years ago to Benson Henderson, it was an injury. So it wasn't a real loss. So this is, we're just not used to seeing him on the short end of the stick. But with that being said, folks, we're going to hit a little prelim action, talk about our fighter of the night, and then we'll get into the actual main card matchmaking. So AJ, I'm just going to point out a couple of things on the prelims. We had 4 decisions, 1 knockout, 4 upsets though, man. A lot of upsets going on the prelims. We already showed a picture a little bit, but Chris Gritsmacher, you know what I'm saying? Homeboy came to play. Now, he hasn't been very successful since coming off of The Ultimate Fighter. It's not like he's just running through people and doing all that stuff, man. But I'll tell you what, you're going to be hard-pressed to see a lot of fighters who are as gritty as he is, pardon the pun, but have the heart and the durability to be able to weather a storm and then basically start whooping that ass for a better half of the fight. You know what I'm saying? Rafa Garcia came into this fight 12-1. He was 12-0, undefeated coming into the UFC. He's dropped both of his UFC appearances. Just give me your take and on just like the prospects of Gritsmacher. You know what I mean? Do you think the man can go far in this lightweight division?
Well, they say there's one thing you can't teach Derick, and that's heart.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what Grits has, bro. He is gritty. He was in there, and he was eating shots from Rafa. Rafa was throwing some bombs, and they were connected. And we were talking about it last week where you see a punch coming in, you're like, all right, I'm going to have to eat this to give him one right back. And that's Grits all day, man. He was just standing there taking them. It was a crazy fight, back and forth. I think Grits has a good future, especially once he starts to fine-tune his tool set a little bit going forward. Because like I said, you can't teach heart, and that's one thing Grits has for sure, brother. What do you think?
I definitely think the man can pull a Darren Elkin style trajectory up the rankings, right? You know what I'm saying? But what I mean by that is you're going to have to know that you cannot completely empty your gas tank in the first round, because he's going to be there round 2 and round 3, and you're going to have to do something about it. And the hands were incredible, man. You know, just his overall ability to weather the storm is so impressive to me, man, because Rafa Garcia is not a small lightweight, and he is absolutely no joke when it comes to the hands, because Gritzmacher was getting rocked with a left hook, like, you know, real early on a bunch of times, and then came back, and he even said it. He was all like, he said that Rafa Garcia was basically preparing himself coming into this fight for an ass whooping, so that's what he got. And listen, I respect it. I love it, man. So that was a UD decision win by Gritzmacher, but this next one that we're going to need to talk about, Danny Chavez versus Kai Kamaka, man. First off, AJ, I got a couple of notes on here that I just want to talk about really quickly, because I feel like Kai Kamaka, like, this is one of the most unlucky dudes in the sport, right? And this time, this is actually a little bit of his fault. So this fight was marred by eye pokes, man. Kai Kamaka hit Danny Chavez, with a Leon Edwards style eye poke. Like Bilal Muhammad was rolling around on the ground, you know, like agony. That's what Danny Chavez was. Let me ask you, smart or too much of a warrior for Danny Chavez to even continue the fight at all and not take the easy dub? Or it would have been a no contest. It wouldn't even been a win. But do you think that it was the smart thing to do for him to be injured like that, you know, have a disadvantage with the eye? You know, the eye is never going to really be right for the rest of the fight, and just warrior Mexican style, or Colombian style, just get up and say, are we ready to rock and roll? Fuck it, I'm going to fight off of anger and adrenaline now. What do you think?
I mean, I think he had to tap into his Colombian roots down there. One time I was in Ecuador, and I got in a scrap with a Colombian, a few different Colombians. We were all getting in the mix together, but they were no joke. They were serious down there. They were prideful, and I think that's what Danny Chavez had to get back on, because you saw that eye, literally, it was like closed for a little bit. It was swollen up. It was red. It was getting puffy, and the doctor came in. What I did like, though, what they did this time is they allowed him to have the clock. They put the clock up, and they told him, yo, you got some time. Just get your eye back, you know, because for all the other eye pokes, it was a time sensitive matter, and they weren't allowing, like, you know, when you get nut shotted, maybe a little foreshadowing, but they're like, when that happens, you know, they give you 5 minutes. So I think that's the same thing. They should start allowing more time for an eye poke, because you're right, it doesn't ever fully come back, but at least, you know, give me a minute or two. Let me wipe some sweat, some finger out of my eye, and then I'll be able to get back and at least see a little bit better. Because you saw, I think it was after like a minute and a half, 2 minutes or so, he was actually able to open it. And he was like finally starting to get back, and it started to swell just a little less. So overall, I think it was a good idea. I mean, that you know, I don't have the notes in front of me for that fight. Who won that fight?
It was a majority draw.
That's what it was. Yeah, because the point loss. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess overall, good call.
Yeah. So to follow up on that, right, a little foreshadowing, Kai Kamaka, right after the eye poke, then hits Danny Chavez with a mean nut shot, like a full Thai plum knee to the nuts, you know, and it's just like you can't catch a break, you know what I'm saying? It's like, man, what did it look intentional? Absolutely not. But when is an illegal move ever intentional? You know what I'm saying? Unless you're, unless you're, I'm blanking on the name right now. I think Wes Sims at one point, he was fighting like this is an old school fight, but he just basically was stomping out his opponent. I think it was like Frank Mir that he was fighting. He just grabbed the cage and literally started stomping him out, which is the most illegal thing that you can do, you know what I'm saying? But oftentimes, outside of that, you're not really going to see craziness. However, I want to ask you this, AJ. This was self-inflicted by Kai Kamaka this time around. Like, listen, dude, the dude, like, he's now 8-4-1, not nearly getting the UFC trajectory that he probably deserves, but he was also a lot more gun shy in this fight, trying to make it a chess match instead of fighting a dog fight, which is, he's Hawaiian, bro. Sometimes that's what you just got to engage in, you know what I mean? Just let me ask you this. Do you think this fight deserves a rematch?
Yes, I do, especially because like you said, both fighters were a little gun shy. They weren't going at it like the dog fight we were expecting. Even on the broadcast, they were saying, when these guys throw, they go.
Yeah.
But that didn't really seem to be the case. Like, that's what we were all expecting. That's why I chose it as one of my sleepers. I was expecting some chaos, some literally back and forth, just nonstop dogfight. And we kind of got a chest smash with a couple of illegal shots. So I was a little underwhelmed by this fight. And I definitely think once these fighters watch it back, they'll feel the same way and kind of get back to their roots. You know what I'm saying? We always say on this show, you gotta do what got you to the big show. And for both of these fighters, that's what that is a dog fight. And don't get me wrong, you can't always be in a dog fight. Like, that's just, it's not good for your health, not good for your longevity in the sport. But sometimes you got to pull on that, you got to dig from that dog and actually get down and dirty. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely think they need to run it back. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm in agreement, man. I think that it's much deserved because now that they felt each other out, they know the styles a little bit better. I think they felt the power. All right, let's rock and roll. And no nut shots this time, no eye pokes this time, because it just kind of ruins the fight. You're not going to see the fight that you were expecting to see originally when you got that stuff going on, man. But last thing that I just want to point out before we do fighter of the night, man, Philip Rowe versus Orion Kosi, one of those names. Listen, Phil Rowe, finally, the Fresh Prince got a W on the board, and he did it in very impressive style after almost jeopardizing his own victory by trying to pull guard in a mixed martial arts fight, which you never want to see it, man. This is not jiu-jitsu, and especially against a legit wrestler like Kosi, it makes absolutely no sense. However, he ended up getting the finish. It looks like it was a broken orbital for Kosi. And I think that the word on the street is that Phil Rowe has 1 inch reach disadvantage on Alexander Volkov, who is a heavyweight, who is like 6'8". And this dude, Phil Rowe, fights at, 170 pounds? Very impressive. He called out the champ, Kamaru Usman, after the fight. Don't think you're going to get that one, man. But give me your take on that one, man. On the feet, in the stand-up, Phil Rowe is a world beater. Absolutely. Got to clear up a couple other things, but just what do you think of the performance?
Man, they were talking about, I forget who it was either Bisbing or Uncle Chael, talking about how Kamaru Usman was able to not only drop Jorge Masvidal, but he was able to turn him around, literally turn his whole body and like knock him out. And that's exactly what Phil Rowe was doing, man. He would, every time he would land that straight right on Kosi, you would literally just see Kosi just turn full 180, just tail to the back end. You're basically getting your head turned around. Your body has to follow. On the feet, man, Phil Rowe was looking like an absolute savage. Like the way he was able to, once he got away from trying to pull guard and all that whole jiu-jitsu jazz, but once he was able to actually maintain distance and he started hitting him with some standing knees and some like straights down the pipe, he looked really, really solid. And I know after the match he was saying, I want to display my jiu-jitsu. I want to display my jiu-jitsu. But I think if your hands keep giving you money, man, why try anything else, Unless you really need to fall back on the jiu-jitsu and it is as good as you say it is, and keep that in the back pocket, but still keep making money with these bad boys right here. What was your take on that whole fight, Derick?
Listen, so my take first and foremost was that even as impressive as Phil Rowe's win was, really big fan of the striking. He came in at a serious advantage, man. He missed weight by 4 pounds. That is a lot of pounds to be missing. It's halfway to Nico Montano status, which if we got time, we'll talk about that one a little bit later too. But I think that he had a very impressive performance, man. I think that he went against a really high level wrestler, got the job done, but that is not going to relinquish the fact that you didn't make weight, man. So you can kind of mark off this victory a little bit. It's not nearly as impressive as it would have been if they both were on an equal playing field. Because like I said, a half pound, all right, whatever. 4 pounds, bro, did you just say like, all right, I'm just going to stop. I'm not even going to try to finish cutting the weight. I'm going to cut my losses. Hopefully he takes the fight, because if this fight would have got pulled because he missed weight too, that would have just been, imagine that timeline as opposed to the fight took place and he got the win. So, very impressive, man. I think he has a very promising future, legitimately. Like, this dude is a problem, but you got to make weight, man. You got to make weight. So, all right, man, with that being said, AJ, you go first. Fighter of the night. Who had the best storyline, the best overall impactfulness? Who did you end the night by saying like, God damn, man, this person is legit? What do you think?
My fighter of the night, Derick, is Cheyanne Buys, brother. Like, the whole aspect of her selling everything, moving, and deciding like, this is what I'm going to do. And she even said, I don't want to be remembered for that girl that I actually didn't get the quote, but she was like, I don't want to be remembered for my last fight. I want to be remembered as the warrior princess, and this is who I am. And the warrior princess showed up. And I'm a big fan of I just blanked the name of the dude. Grant Cardone. Excuse me for messing up your name, Grant. But Grant Cardone, he talks about you need to commit and then figure it out. And that's exactly what Cheyanne Buys did. She took all responsibility and put it on her back and said, I'm here. I got to pay some bills. I got to get this win, and I'm going to do it in impressive fashion. And she put it in God's hands, but she kicked that girl in the face. So that was my fighter of the night, man. Super impressive win, as well as a super impressive storyline. I love the fact that, like I said, she fully committed. That's everybody's goal, man. Everybody's so scared about taking the big leap onto what to do next, when what you need to do is just commit and figure it out later. Who's your fighter of the night?
Well, first I have to say Cheyanne Buys is probably best storyline of the entire card, man. But the one that I got is not the one that I had two of them just in case you might have taken mine. You didn't end up doing it, but I'm going to go with the lesser of the two just because I think that this dude just stomped his way onto the scene at 145 pounds. I'm talking about Melsik Baghdasaryan, man. This is a man who is relatively unknown. He was making his UFC debut. He's Armenian-American, and but I'm talking real Armenian, from Armenia. Like, he was talking about how he went on the Dana White's Contender Series. He had one of the craziest fights in the Dana White Contender Series history, and then gets another invite to come back on the Contender Series and declines it because he has real deal issues with like family stuff going on in Armenia. And he was like, bro, we couldn't eat, we couldn't train, we couldn't do any of that stuff. Like, it was real. This is real people problems. We're not just talking about like first world problem type stuff, right? So you got all that stuff going on. You're knocking out everybody in the first round. You come over here, you fight a very tough Collin Anglin, which a lot of people think he's got a very bright future as a prospect in the UFC. And what do? It's a little competitive for a couple minutes, and for the first round, I guess I should say, until the second round comes around, and you say, I knew if I'm going to knock you out, it's probably going to be the left head kick, because that's how I knock everybody out. And you have a stunning performance. You look mean. You got the look. You got the talk. He's very soft-spoken and all that. And to finish it, and when they're talking about like, hey, walk me through the performance, all of that good stuff, and Baghdasaryan is all like, I don't like talking about myself, we don't need to do that. You guys, you can do all your talking. Journalists, like, you can tell me how my performance was. This might have been good for you. This might have been crazy knockout for you. This was, for me, this was nothing. This was a poor performance. I need to, do other things. I need to get right, get better, and to be so self-critical on yourself after having one of the most stunning knockouts, a performance bonus knockout on this card in your UFC debut. Does that not go to show how high level the ceiling is for this man? Because if anything, you need to be self-critical if you want to continue to grow. The moment that you become content is the moment you start dying. We talk about it all the time. You got to either keep going or you're going backwards. So I think this man has stamped his name onto the 145-pound scene. I think he's a dark horse to be a contender in the near future. Obviously, clearly just a prospect right now. But this is one of the best storylines as well, man. You got a real person going through real deal issues and political, geographical issues and all that coming onto the scene. Became a American, got his American citizenship so he could bring his parents over, talking about he's been just so lonely and isolated for all these years. Come on, man. What's a better story than that? Well, Cheyanne Buys is a better story. But aside from that, listen, man. Remember the name Melsik Baghdasaryan. He says my nickname is the gun because I have so many weapons. So just watch out, man, because this dude is going to be a problem. I can guarantee it, man. But folks, hope you enjoyed the new segment, Fighter of the Night. Something we're working on, something we bringing into it. Drop a like, subscribe if you like what we're doing. All of the good stuff. BloodyWaterPodcast.com, AJ. But we did all of that good stuff. We took quite some time. So let's do some, let me go back. Let's do some actual main card, you know what I'm saying, recap, man, and get this thing started off. We'll kind of run through these pretty quickly. All right, AJ. Bryan Barberena versus Jason Witt. Jason Witt gets the majority decision, almost gets ruled a majority draw, but I'll tell you what, man, this was the Rock'em Sock'em Robots fight of the night that nobody expected, but once again, we all deserved, man. Listen, Jason Witt, I thought he was going to come out very hesitant, just trying to play it safe, just grapple and stick to, getting a win. James Krause in the third round says, I don't care if this is the most boring fight in the history of the UFC, get the win. And Jason Witt's like, oh yeah, I thought I was doing that. And Krause responded, yeah, you did that for 15 seconds. And then it was the craziest third round I've ever seen in my life. Why? Because Bryan Barberena probably did deserve to get a 10-8 in that third round because he was boxing Witt all up and down the floor, man, back and forth. Rock'em Sock'em Robots, like I said, clearly you disagree slightly, AJ. So give me your take on the fight. Give me your take on Jason Witt, the Vanilla Gorilla, getting his second win in the UFC.
The only reason I disagree a little bit is 10-8s are so hard to judge. Like, I feel like a 10-8 should be the dude was almost finished. Like, I always think of a 10-8, a perfect 10-8 that is in recent memory is the Sean O'Malley fight he just had versus the guy I just forgot the
Chris
name.
Montano.
Chris Montino, dude, that dude deserves some respect too. So I'm sorry about forgetting your name, but that round was a 10-8 because that first round could have been stopped. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know that like Jason Witt, he had some times, and there was a couple moments in that third round where he was on all fours doing like the dodge, which, you know, if Bryan Barberena would just played a little more smart and just let him stand up or let, you know, like hit him a couple with some uppercuts or anything like that, maybe it could have been finished. But I don't know if I'd have scored it a 10-8. Either way, one hell of a fight. And what I was writing down for this one is these boys were thumping, man, like absolutely thumping each other and just like crazy strikes. I did not expect Jason Witt to come out and not just go for a takedown right off the bat. Like I expected him, like you said, I expect to come out a little lackadaisical, or not lackadaisical, but going right for the takedown and make this a boring fight and just secure the win. Kind of like his coach was talking about. But sometimes you get in that cage, man, and you just want to, you know, you just go back to your roots and just start swinging and banging. And we loved this fight, especially for that, man. This was one hell of a fight. Barberena, I'm a little jaded on this one because I think, you know, he's going to be kicking himself in the ass for worrying about the takedown so much that in that third round, anytime Jason Witt was on all fours, almost about to be knocked out, Bryan Barberena would sprawl out just so he didn't get taken down. It's like, bro, like you didn't even need to. This dude can't even see straight. But I mean, you know, it is what it is. So either way, a hell of an impressive fight, and I love to see it, man. That was a scrap, brother. It was an amazing fight. What was your takeaway?
My takeaway was low expectations, high rewards, my man. I had very low expectations for this fight. I thought this was very much a filler fight, you know what I mean? But I'll tell you what, we were greatly, greatly rewarded. I think that Jason Witt, he's kind of showing some of that stuff that got him into the UFC originally, which was the hands, man. Dude has crazy crack in his shot, legitimately. Is it technical? Not very much, but sometimes those over-the-top shots is what gets it done. Now, one thing that has been said in the past that, listen, I may be discredited a little bit, but now we know for sure, you'll never watch a boring Bryan Barberena fight. It's not going to happen. You get the nickname Bam Bam for a reason, and I want to ask you this question before we move on to the next match, man, because this was, while it was a fight of the night, Rock'em Sock'em Robots, man, this was relatively low stakes for the division. I mean, you know, neither of these dudes are in like the top 50 or something like that, right? But or maybe top 40 or something. But I want to ask you this, AJ. Do you think that if Bryan Barberena was able to complete the finish in round 3, have the crazy, crazy comeback, that would be up there for comeback of the year in terms of a fight?
Oh, yeah. That would definitely be up there for comeback of the year, man. He was easily losing that, you know, 2018. Like he wasn't even close to winning either of those rounds. Jason Witt was putting on a show, man. Yeah. And I definitely think, at least in my mind, I don't know if I can think of a comeback that's up there as well. Just I don't have the notes on it, but yeah. I know there's been some crazy comeback, but that was definitely one of them.
That was absolutely one of them. Like, this was a war all the way from the beginning to the end. And I do have to mention, this is the first fight in Jason Witt's UFC tenure where the fight actually went the distance, man. It's either he's gotten finished or he's finished somebody in each of the 3 of his 4 UFC fights, man. So great win for Jason Witt, man. Big win. And yeah, that's what we got to say about that one, man. Now, we just talked about it a little bit earlier, AJ, but, you know, we'll just kind of clean this one up real quick, man. Collin Anglin versus Melsik Baghdasaryan. I said remember the name, you better remember the name, man, because he got the TKO round 2 left head kick, beautiful, picture perfect, almost included in the best photos, but I didn't think it was quite good enough. All I have to say about this one, AJ, is that if we're talking about Baghdasaryan, we need to talk about the proficiency in his offensive attack. Even when he was taken down by Anglin, he was able to get back up on his feet, wasn't deterred by that. Knees, elbows, kicks, punches, spinning shit. It does not matter. This dude reminds me, and I don't want to make this comparison because it's not like they're from the same country or anything like that. He's Armenian. I'm going to be talking about some of the Dagestani fighters, but he reminds me of like the Usman Nurmagomedovs, you know, even the Umar Nurmagomedovs, just throwing the crazy spinning techniques, man. There ain't no Khabib style type, none of that. You know, I'm talking about these really proficient strikers who are doing it. And, you know, I just want to know to you, man, you get a left roundhouse kick for a flash KO, come back with a hammer fist to close the show, man. Very, very dominant finish. Just give me your take on it overall, AJ.
Man, impressive. I had it going a little back and forth for round 1, but then when Baghdasaryan came on, bro, he put on. He showed up when it was time. And sometimes they say, you know, when the light hits, that's when you got to deliver. And sure enough, Baghdasaryan was there, brother. And that left high kick was absolutely insane. I mean, I can't really say much besides the gun has all the techniques. Like literally, he was pulling out spinning shit, ground game, elbows, knees. Like this dude is for real, and I'm very excited to see where Baghdasaryan goes for his future. Man, his prospect ceiling is very very high, and we're gonna have to remember that name.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I just want to ask you, because this is the fight that got bumped up, and then Arashev versus Benoit got bumped down. What was a better fight overall to you?
I'd probably have to say this one. Just because like the Benoit fight, don't get me wrong, like I like seeing it. And it was a great performance, but once one of the fighters just gets on his bike and starts literally running around the cage for the whole third fight, don't get me wrong, that's a win. Like, and smart move, game plan all day. But to have a guy chasing you down where you absolutely brutalized his leg and he shouldn't be walking and you're running away from him tells a little bit more of a story than I would imagine most fighters and true fighters would like to think. Because if you think like, I just absolutely brutalized this guy, I can put him away, right? Shouldn't you be able to put him away instead of getting your bike and run? I don't know. That's up for debate because the check is the check at the end of the day, and he did get his hand raised. So.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you, man. And it just goes to show that you're not always running off of pure instincts in the cage, right? It's similar to Jinyu Fry. I think her and who we're talking about right now, Zaruk Arashev, I think they're both what I would consider thinking fighters. So they're literally in the fight thinking, okay, I cannot lose this. I am, 0-3 in the UFC, or I'm 0-2 or whatever. I need this win. And imagine thinking about that as you're fighting somebody. You know what I mean? It's just crazy because you'll see it, man. When you're in these high stakes moments, sometimes you have the most random thoughts. And even in the big football game or basketball game, you're just thinking about drifting off into the, whatever. I think it was. I'm blanking on the name. This was this big heavyweight that he's fought a couple times recently, but he was saying when he was getting beat up in the cage, he was like, oh, yeah, I just started staring like, oh, why is there that trash can there? Just already, why he's getting smashed on bottom, So it's just crazy how that works. But at the end of the day, man, we already talked about it a little bit. Huge win for Baghdasaryan, man. Can't wait to see where he goes. Now, this is the one, AJ, we were both wrong on this pick, but I'm wrong. I'm glad I'm wrong on this one because Niklas Stolze, he gets starched, man, in the first round against the Night Train, Jared Gooden, who took the fight on 4 days' notice, who secured his first finish in his UFC tenure, his first win in his UFC tenure as well, man. My question is the similar one to the Ryan Benoit versus Zaruk Arashev. When you have not a clear, distinct grappling advantage, but you're pretty damn good with your grappling, all your wrestling sprawls and transitions, why do you strike with a man who is known to knock people's heads off their shoulders, who looks like a mini Debo, who looks like just a Greek god, chiseled bodybuilder arms, man? Just give me some sort of explanation on Niklas Stolze's plan getting 1-2'd by Jared Gordon.
I think he overthought it. When you're going into a scrap and you think like, all right, this guy knows that I'm here to wrestle. I'm here to take him down. I got to at least mix it up a little bit before I shoot the takedown. Maybe that's what was going on. I don't know. I don't know why in the world he decided to try and box with Jared Gooden, man. It made no sense at all. The only thing I could think is maybe he was trying to mask his attack, like he was trying to overthink it and trying to game plan a little bit, throw a couple 1s and 2s before just to offset Jared Gooden, get him sit back on his heels so that way the takedown is a little easier. But I don't see any reason why anyone would want to strike with Jared Gooden, man. It makes absolutely zero sense, especially when I thought it was a pretty decisive grappling advantage that Stolze had on Gooden. What do you think? Why would anybody ever want to strike with Jared Gooden, man?
The only thought that I have that makes any inkling of sense is that maybe he was all like, well, I watched him versus Abu Bakr, and Abu Bakr, I was able to kind of piece him up a little bit, right? That's a different dude, though, man. That's a dude who had the real wrestling threat where he was like, I cannot get taken down by this dude. His hands were at his knees, just being like, if you shoot on me, I'm going to be ready. So obviously that's going to, it's going to make your boxing defense a little bit weak, because you're too concerned about the takedown. Stolze never earned the respect for the takedown for Gooden. I think, if anything, Gooden actually took down Stolze in that matchup. Gooden is a BJJ brown belt, by the way. He just doesn't use it all the time. But at the end of the day, man, this was a huge win for Gooden. This is the win that he needed. He says he had a spiritual revelation, in the week upcoming to the fight, and he took the fight on 4 days' notice, man. So just like, you have to feel for Stolze, because on one hand, you could be like, damn, man, you're supposed to fight Lazez. Lazez pulled out last-minute replacement, and he get knocked out. But then for Gooden, you say, well, hey, man, your back was against the wall. You're 0-2. You're fighting for your job, and you get the knockout. Listen, man, that's picture perfect. Poetry in motion right there, man. Huge win for the Night Train, Jared Gordon. And I do have to note that he opened as a favorite and he ended up closing as an underdog. Got the easy win, man. So big win for Jared Gordon, my man. Now this is your fighter of the night, Cheyanne Buys, with the TKO round 1 victory over Gloria de Paula. Before we talk about Buys, because we already kind of, did a little bit of we already talked about her a little bit, right? Talk about Gloria de Paula, man. How frustrating of a loss does this have to be? Because the fight never got started. And I think that de Paula actually looked pretty damn sharp in the beginning. Footwork was nice, moving in circles, foot in the tire, all that good stuff, man. And all it took. And this is just the one of the explanations for why you'll see so many fighters when they're on their butt scoot a bunch of times to get up to the cage instead of just getting up. Because I think GSP got rocked by the same type of kick, man. And Eric Anders has also landed this kick on somebody. So this is not infrequent for people to get rocked as they're trying to transition getting up. You always have to be ready no matter where you are in the cage, man. Just give me your take overall.
Gloria de Paula looked amazing, man. I think both of us, when we were texting back and forth, were a little upset that it ended. I guess not upset, but we were a little off-put that it ended so quick, because Gloria de Paula was looking sharp. Even Cheyanne Buys in the post-fight presser, she was saying, or not, maybe it had been her ring interview, I forgot which one, but she was saying, she was like, Gloria de Paula came to strike, man. She was looking crisp. Her shots were landing. Everything was looking good. But sometimes, that's just what happens. I mean, I don't really have anything the stars needed to align for Gloria de Paula to stand up and just stand up like that and not put her hand up to block a kick coming in. Because that's anytime I'm thinking about getting off the cage or getting off the mat, I always just think someone's gonna kick me in the face. Like if I'm standing up, the first thing I always think of is just, it's so easy to get kneed or kicked because your hands aren't there. And I know a lot of the time you'll see it happen where it's an illegal knee, but sometimes the refs you'll see the fighters pull up on the other fighter just to get their hands up a little bit, because a lot of people like to stall when they're just putting the hands on the mat. And I don't know. I think we've talked about this before in the show, where I think knees on the ground should be legal, kicks on the ground should be legal, as long as you're not soccer kicking people and stomping on their faces and stuff like that. But this was one of those ones where even the media was saying we were that close to seeing an illegal shot, but in the real fight game, that's illegal. That is legal. That's all good and love and war, even though this is strictly just war. So yeah. I don't know. This was a great fight. I love seeing what Cheyanne Buys did. This was cool. And I'm excited for Gloria de Paula to come back off of such a devastating loss to see what she does in her next fight.
Absolutely, man. So let me just ask you this before we move on this matchup, AJ. In an alternate timeline, right? I keep going down these different rabbit hole theories, right? But in an alternate timeline where Cheyanne Buys doesn't throw that kick for another fraction of a second, and she actually smacks de Paula in her face while she's a grounded opponent, how do you think this changes for both fighters? Like, Cheyanne Buys would then be 0-2 in the UFC. Not only is she the headlock girl, but she's also the illegal kicking people in the head girl, and de Paula finally would get her first win in the UFC. I mean, there would be a drastically different scene right now. What we'd be talking about if a fraction of a second that kick was thrown just a little bit sooner, right?
Oh, it'd be drastic because first off, Gloria de Paula, nobody wants to win that way. I mean, unless you're Aljo Sterling, nobody wants to win off an illegal kick. And I don't even think he did. I think he was just playing the heel, which by all means, I would do the exact same thing. But Cheyanne Buys, what would you rather be known for, the headlock girl or the illegal kick girl? It's such a bad look. And I think if we did see that, we could have saw the end of the Buys family. I don't know if her husband is also going to continue fighting, but he lost his first two. So imagine, those two losing that, the money situation in that household, and then going forward off of the second loss, and she has all the debt coming forward and the loan. That would have been a rough road. That would have been a real rough road. So I'm pretty happy for her that didn't go down like that.
Yeah, that was that storybook ending that normally 9 out of 10 times does not take place, especially in this sport, right? But I will have to say Cheyanne Buys, she secures the 4th fastest strawweight finish in UFC history with 60-second knockout of Gloria de Paula, man. Super duper impressive. And let's not forget, it was the head kick that was followed up by a full mount ground and pound that got her out of there. So it was some extra damage de Paula took on the way out, man. And that was our co-main event, though, man. So, I mean, at least we got some action in the co-main co-main, and then we got a very non-action field. It was very one-sided, one-way train, and Sean Strickland's unanimous decision win against Uriah Hall. My question is this, AJ. One of the biggest problems I talked about with Uriah Hall is he's a slow starter. Happened again this fight. But the big criticism on him as a whole in his entire career is that sometimes it appears that he's not, and this is from an outside perspective. Clearly, we don't know what's going on with him, but it appears that sometimes he's not mentally checked into the fight. You know, like he's there, but he's not there. You know, like Sean Strickland, he has these famous words I think he used against Jack Marshman when he was just piecing him up, talking to him. He was like, the lights were on, but nobody was home. You know what I'm saying? And it's like kind of like appeared that could have been Uriah Hall, because Sean Strickland, not only is he on a 5-fight win streak tied with Brendan Allen for the second longest win streak in middleweight division right now behind Israel Adesanya's 10 fights, but he also earned the middleweight striking record for the 186 significant strikes landed on Uriah Hall, which this dude normally does not get hit a lot. What happened, man? What happened here?
I think it was just that, man. I think Uriah Hall just didn't. He went back. I feel like there's two forms of Uriah Hall. There's prime time, and then there's Uriah Hall. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like Uriah Hall just didn't show up. He was just kind of off. And I full credit goes to Sean Strickland on this one, because he's made it. You know, they say you made it when your idols become your rivals. And back, 5 years ago when these two were training together, Uriah Hall was beating him up. Uriah Hall was piecing it to him, and then even Sean Strickland was saying, like, this guy, he's a hard fight. Like, I knew he was going to be a hard fight, so I knew I had to bring it. So I think on the other side of the coin, Uriah Hall was thinking like, oh, okay, I'm going to dog this dude. Like, I smack this dude up and down the whole block every time we fight. Like, I'm not even that worried. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to start working him right off the bat. Boom, he gets hit with a jab. And you saw one of those first jabs, he, like, started wiping his nose like, oh, shit, like, I got hit. And that hurt. Like, oh, my God, I'm in it. And he right then, that's when I started to see the gears start turning. And sometimes when you're a thinking fighter, like we're talking about Jin Yu Fry, that's a good thing. Your brain's working, you're firing on all cylinders. But for other people, you're not a thinking fighter. You fight off instinct and you fight off like how prime time fights. It just wasn't a good look, man. And I don't know if the lights were on, nobody was home, or the lights were on and everybody was cleaning up instead of actually fighting. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what it was for Uriah Hall. He was just thinking about too many different things instead of focusing on the dude that was right in front of him, jabbing his face off for 5 rounds. Honestly, though, all credit goes to Sean Strickland on this one. This dude absolutely put it to Uriah Hall, and I think there's no other, like, I don't even know. That, like, it was an amazing performance by Sean Strickland, and sad to see for Uriah Hall.
Exactly. That's really how you got to sum it up, man. Like I said, this was very one-way action for round 1 to round 5. I thought I was like, okay, round 3, I was like, this is when Hall's about to pick it up. Same thing, time and time again, man. Maybe a broken orbital for Uriah Hall. I know I'm using that a lot, but a lot of people's faces were getting smashed in this weekend, man. But I do have to say this. One thing that I had noted on the pre-show is that Sean Strickland, his best path to victory is making Uriah Hall, smothering him and making him turn into a boxer. Because if I had to count right now, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but aside from a couple of calf kicks, we're talking big spinning kicks, head kicks, I think Uriah Hall literally threw like one the entire fight. So I don't know if he knew like maybe in training it didn't work against Strickland before, or he was just in boxing range trying to outbox Strickland. And that was just, to me, it's like that was Strickland's best path to victory. He got the job done, man. God, I wish I had something better to say about this, but it does look like this is the end of Uriah Hall's championship hopes in the UFC. He's 37 years old, man. He was on a nice streak, but then it calls into question, what do you think would have happened in that Chris Weidman fight if Weidman didn't break his leg? Because I picked Weidman to win that fight, and then obviously Uriah Hall wins via leg break, but we could have seen something similar, man. Weidman likes to get in your face, throw big hooks at you, all that good stuff. I will say Sean Strickland, one thing that he said, he was like, I need to learn how to punch harder, dude. Like, I can't just have a dude out on Queer Street like that and not get the job done, He was like, all that striking record, all that means is that I just hit like a pussy. Like, I can't even hit hard, So I got to have to. So it's like that self-deprecating, and you love to see it. And he's turning into an enigma, man. He's turning into a legit commodity for the UFC. And I think that he has placed himself very firmly in that one fight away from a title shot conversation in the middleweight division. Last thing before we move on to some matchmaking, AJ, I want to ask you, first off, did you ever anticipate Sean Strickland even being in that consideration for like, this dude might be able to fight for a title? And if he fought Kamaru Usman, which he's already did, he already got knocked out by Usman. If he fought him again, how do you think the tide will have changed for the 30-year-old Sean Strickland, the Sean Strickland 2.0?
Definitely not this early. Like, I thought, if anything, Sean Strickland was going to be in the mix maybe in a year, 2, 3 years down the road, kind of build up to it, have a little bit up and down like we've seen in his career so far. But nowhere near this early, man. He's on a meteoric rise, and I think it's very well deserved. And I think if he fights Kamaru Usman again, Kamaru Usman better be working on, or I guess not working on him because he's absolutely dominant on them, but those takedown game. That's the way to beat Sean Strickland right now, is just get him away from punching you in the face and walking you down, and just take him down and beat him up, because I think that's the only way to go with Sean Strickland, man. Those hands are too quick. That jab is too snappy, and he knows how to fight. And I think the scary thing about him, and if you've ever fought somebody who likes to fight, that's what's scary about Sean Strickland, man. He thoroughly enjoys it, and he likes it, and he doesn't even watch the UFC. The crazy thing is, he's like, I don't know anybody in the top 8. I know Brad Tavares and Israel Adesanya. That's it. Like, come on, Izzy. And like, fuck you, Brad. But he was just joking, obviously, because they train together. But that's crazy. He doesn't even watch the UFC. He just likes to scrap. So that's a very dangerous man in the cage when he's not going to be starstruck anymore. He's just out there to come clean some clocks. So yeah, I'm excited to see it. That'd be cool to see a rematch with those two.
Absolutely. I don't know if he has to get like a big decisive win against a really high level dude to be able to get that title shot, in my opinion, just because there's a couple people who, I still want to see Wonder Boy versus Usman personally. I still think that would be a really good matchup. Does he deserve it after his loss to Gilbert Burns? No. Maybe Gilbert Burns gets a rematch. Obviously, this ain't the matchmaking portion. We're going to run through that real quickly, but huge win for Sean Strickland, man. Huge win, propels him up the rankings for sure, at least up to that 8th spot. And then, listen, we're going to talk about who they're going to fight next, man. So that was the main card, folks. Drop a like, all that good stuff. If you like what we putting down each and every single week, even in moments of transition, man. Most people, they just say, we transition and we'll just take the week off. Look, we here, we at it, we ready to go, holding it down for y'all, man. So let's move on to some matchmaking real quick, AJ. And I think we could run through these ones actually like fairly quickly, man. So let's start off with the biggest weight, Sean Strickland. I got one person. I got 2 matchups, but I got one that makes sense to me. You got to think about right now at 185 pounds, a lot of the top 10 is already booked up. They already have contracts to fight. And I'm going to start off with this one. I say that Sean Strickland, next up, you got to fight a contrast of styles. How about the Joker, number 6, Jack Hermansson? You know what I mean? I think he's a 22-6 contender who was coming off a big win against Edmund Shabazian. But I think that even though Hermansson that's not his strong suit on the feet, we saw him get pieced up by Shabazian in his last fight. If he gets you to the ground, man, he's a dangerous, dangerous man. And like you said, that's the way to beat Sean Strickland. At least that's what it appears to be. What do you think about that, and who do you have, AJ?
Yeah, I had the Joker as well, just because I think there's one way to beat Sean Strickland. You got to take him down, especially early in the game, whenever everybody's dry, and go work a finish like that. But if I'm not going Jack Hermansson, I'm going Paulo Costa. I think Paulo is kind of sliding by, skating by on everyone's coattails, not really getting the fight. And I would like to see that fight personally. I think Sean Strickland would piece up Costa, and we'd be able to put him on the back burner and see Sean, start to fight some real deal talent going forward. Not to say Paulo Costa isn't real deal talent, but he's been skating by, so I'm a little jaded by him.
No, I like that, man, and I think that I say it all the time, right? You gotta earn and continuously earn your ranking. So if you're number 3 and Strickland says, "I want your 3," what's up? Let's fight for it. You better be game to defend that 3. You know what I'm saying? So I think that'd be a good one, man. I had that as well. I had the winner of Costa versus Vettori, but Strickland actually trains with Vettori at King's MMA, so I thought he'd be a little hesitant to take that fight. But then you never know. Maybe he'd be like, all right, I don't give a fuck. If I got to get that belt, like whatever, I'll fight whoever, even if you're my friend or not. It's just punching you in the face, nothing personal, But anyways, man, move on to the welterweight division. Jason Witt, the Vanilla Gorilla. He came in at about number 69. I think at this point now, he should probably move up to around 48, that's who where Barberena was at, so right there, kind of in that top 50, right? But that's a big jump, man. Plus 20 spots. And I got a really interesting name that I don't think you're going to expect, so I want you to go first. Who do you got for this one, AJ?
Man, I got Jeremiah Wells for this one.
Okay.
I was trying to find somewhere kind of in the middle, somewhere not too big of a reach for him. First, I have 2, but I'm going to give the one. I got Jeremiah Wells going for it. I think it'd be a good fight. Kind of 2 guys that kind of really need to make a name for themselves, and I think that'd be a hell of a fight. Who's your guy?
I think Jason Witt needs to fight somebody with a little more star power if he wants to keep going in the direction that he's heading. And this is going to be unconventional, but believe it or not, the man is a name in the UFC. He's fought some of the biggest names already. I got him matching up with number 64 ranked McKee Gall. I think that being a 7-3 UFC vet, 5 rear naked chokes out of your 7 wins, man, a grappler versus a grappler, 2 dudes who can actually pop when they really throw their hands. I think it'd just be a really fun matchup, and I think that it's the name that Jason Witt's going to need if he wants to really keep moving up. Did you have that one as well?
I saw that when I was doing the matchmaking, but I thought it was just a little too high for him. I wanted to give him one more before we send him to the dogs like that. But don't get me wrong, that's a hell of a fight. I'm in. Like if we see Jason Witt versus I just blanked the name, McKee Gall, bro, that's a scrap, bro. Hell yeah.
Absolutely, man. So did you want to point out the other one that you have, or are you cool with that?
Warley Alves.
Oh,
I think Warley Alves would be a really good fight as well. Just stylistically, I think those both would just match up very well with each other. But honestly, though, I think overall, McKee Gall. I think that's the fight to make right there.
That's a fun one. Dana, hey, book it. You know what I'm saying? Give us a call. You dig. Come on. All right, man. The night train. Jared Gooden came in around 85, and I don't think that he deserves to move up personally. It was a great knockout, but Stolze came in around 114. So it's not like you're fighting a dude way above you in the rankings, right? Way behind. He's literally 30 spots behind you in the rankings. A knockout is a knockout, though, and I don't know if you're going to expect the one that I got for this one, AJ, so you go first. Who do you think that the night train should fight next?
Man, I was having a little bit of difficulty trying to find somebody good, a good matchup for this one. So I went with a name, Dwight the Body Snatcher Grant. I think that'd be a hell of a fight. It's a little bit of a reach. He's up there. It's a hell of a name to go against each other. I think it'd be a hard fight for Gooden as well. So that's why I like to see how we can test Gooden going forward. Who's your name?
Well, I think the Body Snatcher, I think he's coming off of a loss too, right? So that could be interesting. It could definitely be interesting. I would like to see that. But I got number 76 ranked Gifted Gabe Green, man. He's 10-3 UFC prospect coming off of his first win against Phil Rowe, believe it or not. And if you were listening to some of the pre-fight interview stuff that Gooden was talking about, he was saying that he's he's friends with Rowe or something like that, very friendly, has a friendly relationship with him, and that he's really excited that they were able to fight on the same card, both to get big wins and all that good stuff. So I'm thinking you friendly with him, you might be wanting to get one back for your boy, you know what I'm saying? Like, what's up? And if anyone could get it back, it's definitely Phil Rowe. But I'll tell you what, this is a good stylistic matchup because Gabe Green is no joke, bro, no joke. His first fight, I'm blanking on who his UFC debut was. It was Daniel Rodriguez. So he lost that fight to Daniel Rodriguez. I think he took that on super short notice. But, I mean, come on, D-Rod. Like, that's a legit opposition right there for your UFC debut. Come in, get a big unanimous decision win, Wrestling Fest over Phil Rowe. Let's see, Jared Gooden. That's his kryptonite, too, is the wrestling, man. So let's see what they could do. What do you think about that?
I like that one. I saw that one on the Tapology while I was scrolling. And I just didn't really want to. I didn't know the background between Phil Rowe, Gabe Green, that whole jazz. I like that storyline getting put together, but I was just trying to give Jared Gooden someone with a little bit more name recognition so far. But I do like that fight. I do like that fight for the background.
Yeah, sometimes, that's what makes fights, right? It's the story. It's not even how good are you. It's just, is it a good story? Can you sell it to the people? And I think that one would definitely sell, especially if the UFC did some promo on that one. But now on to the featherweight division. Number 95 ranked Melsik Baghdasaryan and his big win over Collin Anglin, who was ranked 139. So once again, not a big jump up, man. Not a jump up at all if you're talking to me. But it was a solidifying your number 95. I think he definitely deserves to be a little higher, but you got to fight somebody with a little more of a name, a little more skilled. And listen, man, I think we're going to have to do young versus old in his next matchup, personally, start cleaning out the division a little bit. But who do you think? Who do you think that Baghdasaryan needs to fight next to really, really make an impact in his career?
That was the hard thing for me, is trying to find somebody that can make a big impact for Baghdasaryan, because I want to see this dude jump up. Like, I think he's very, very skilled and can easily keep going, climbing that ladder. But I got Joshua Kulabau. It's a semi-big name. He's also on the come-up. So it's going to be an interesting fight. And Kulabau can bang, too. So that would be an interesting match for it, as far as, like, tool set versus tool set. Who's your old guy?
Well, I'd say Baghdasaryan, he's more technical, and Kulabau can bite down on the mouthpiece and throw, you know what I'm saying? So that would be fun. But I got somebody who also bites down on the mouthpiece and who also throws like someone you've never seen before, right? He's coming off of a pretty tough loss in his last fight, but I got number 72, Mowgli Benitez, man. Gabriel Benitez, I think he's a fun kickboxer, 22-9 UFC veteran, a lot of skill in the stand-up, and like I said, young versus old. At this point for Benitez, you got to start winning them, man, because if you don't, you're just going to get matched up with the young guns who want to take your spot. And this is literally, you're fighting the gun, Melsik Baghdasaryan. So you got to really be careful here in this matchup. But I think this would be not necessarily a showcase matchup, because think about it. If they just gave Billy Q Benitez in his last fight, that means that, I mean, Billy Q is high level. He's legit. So if Baghdasaryan could pass that test, I think that would be big things for his career, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. I saw that too. I saw Mowgli on the list. The only reason I didn't write it down is just because I thought he just fought a couple weeks ago. So I was like, we'll see somebody else. I want to see somebody else in the mix up a little bit.
Yeah, no, understood. But it definitely could be interesting, my man. So, all right, man. Women's strawweight, last one. Your fighter of the night, once again, Cheyanne Buys, the Warrior Princess. No change because she came in around 41. De Paula was ranked about 62. So this is a very prospect main card that we had here. We only had 2 ranked fighters. You know what I'm saying? So I have a cheat. I'm kind of cheating with my pick personally, so I want you to go first, man, because mine is real. It's a layup, you know. So you give me who you think she should fight next.
This was another hard one for me, Derick. This one, there's so many fighters within like 20 people of her that either weren't like in the UFC or they're on a bunch of losing streaks or anything like that. So I'm going with Polyana Viana. It's a pretty good fight. Yeah. It'd be a pretty good scrap, especially Viana's no slouch, man. And it'd be good to see how we can test Viana, or we can test Buys, against Viana. And Viana is not necessarily an old school vet, but she's been in the game long enough to have a name and be, you know, a no joke killer. So who's your layup?
Well, you just feeding her to the Brazilians, huh? You know, Brazilian after Brazilian. But I'm going another. Yeah, there you go. I'm going another storyline. You know what I'm saying? I'm going another good narrative here because I think that she should fight somebody who shared the card with her. I think that she should fight Jinh Yu Frey next. Personally, you know, Jinh Yu Frey is number 32, so that'd be a big bump up in the rankings, about 10 spots. 11-6, coming off of back-to-back victories, man. And this is the big thing, man. Frey is finally able to showcase some of her Invicta Atomweight champion experience, man. She was a champion, you feel me, in Invicta, which is not a low-level organization, right? So she's finally able to show off some of that experience. She's catching her groove in the UFC now. But the biggest thing is that for Frey, her best path to victory is on the feet. And so is the same thing to be said for Cheyanne Buys. However, before Cheyanne Buys says, I'm leaving Dallas, Texas, I'm coming to Las Vegas, coming back to my home of Extreme Couture, she used to train at Fortis MMA with Jinh Yu Frey. So it would be like, okay, man, you switched camps. Is this going to be like a Cody Garbrandt, TJ Dillashaw type situation? Like, I don't know if there will be any bad blood because they're both very, I would say, respectful martial artists to their opponents, unless, you know, you get spit on and then you're like, oh, bitch, I'm following you home, which is what she's known for. And I love it. You know, she says she's kind of proud of it too, you know, that tagline. But I just think that there would be the Extreme Couture versus Fortis MMA kind of rivalry. Saif Saud, Eric Nixick. You poached one of our fighters, even though she originally came up in Extreme Couture. I don't know. You could look at it both ways. What do you think about that matchup?
I like that one. I like that one a lot. I saw it on the same thing, saw it on the Tapology. The only reason I didn't choose it is because they just fought right on the card, so I wanted to mix it up a little, get somebody we haven't seen. But I do like that one as far as like technique versus technique, stand up fight for Cheyanne Buys and Jinh Yu Frey. Woo! Yeah, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely going to be a banger, folks. So that concludes our matchmaking, and we're running a little bit low on time here, folks, so we're just going to knock out some newswire. And I only got one thing for you, AJ, because I don't want to spend too much time. We're about at the hour mark now. So this is going to be regarding somebody, a canceled fight that was supposed to happen, you know, one of the 11 cancellations that took place for this card. But this was Wu Yanan versus Nico Matano, you know, not just any fighter in Nico Matano, but a former women's flyweight champion, you know what I mean? Listen, she 4-3 in MMA, 1-1 in the UFC, believe it or not, champion, 1-1 in the UFC. Interesting to see, right? Shout out to the Ultimate Fighter. She has 8 canceled bouts since 2017, and she's withdrawn from 6 of those 8 bouts, 4 withdrawals in a row. Is her time in the UFC over, AJ? And before you answer that, if she wasn't a UFC veteran or a former UFC champion, do you think she would have already been cut?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, there's no excuse. Once you sign on the dotted line, you know what the date is, you know what the weight is. It's your job to make it. And there's pullouts, there's injuries, you know, there's all this stuff. So there's some that are excusable. But 8, come on, man. That's what are you doing? You I think she would have been cut a long time ago if she wasn't a champ. And it's crazy to even see that she was 1-1 and still makes it a champ thanks to the Ultimate Fighter. Although I think the women's divisions are all a little lean,
Mhm.
so maybe she might have a couple more in her. We'll see. We'll see how Uncle Dana's feeling about that, but I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I mentioned on the pre-show that Nico Montano had this documentary coming out, and it was going to be featuring how she had a terrible weight cut against Valentina Shevchenko back in like 2017 or 2016, right? Had to get hospitalized because she just couldn't make the weight or whatever. It was a really, really bad weight cut and stuff like that. So my question to you, AJ, and I don't want to think the worst of people. I don't want to think maliciously. Do you think that this could have been somehow, some way, a advertisement, a walking advertisement, a promotion, a promo being cut for that documentary, being that Nico Montano missed weight by 8 pounds. 8 pounds, man, above the 135-pound limit. She used to fight at 125 pounds, right? She was the flyweight champion. So you missed weight by 8 pounds. You got this documentary coming up, and you've already been talking in this fight camp about how the UFC PI has basically changed the game for you and how they're taking such good care of you to turn around and have a crazy weight miss like that. Like, this is one of the worst that we've seen all year and in the years prior to the UFC. So just, give me your take on that one, AJ.
I mean, I don't want to think the worst of it, but I can easily see how some people would think that. I mean, all press is good press, even if it's bad. And the thing about just getting your name in the media and just repeating, having people talk about it, she's kind of a little bit better. We saw with Sean O'Malley and I just blanked the Ecuadorian Cheeto Vera, excuse me. Cheeto, I'm blanking everybody's names. I'm sorry, everybody, but Cheeto Vera. If your name's not in the media and the guy you beat still has more clout, it's the same thing for Nico Montano. She's just trying to keep her name going so she can keep fighting or at least keep, a little bit of ad revenue coming. I think this is crazy though. Like if you're not making weight, like why not jump up a weight class? I don't know though. Do they even have 145? Like nobody wants to fight Amanda Nunes, so I don't know. It's crazy to see, man.
Yeah, man. And believe it or not, we had already done an episode talking about how we had just witnessed the last fight in 145-pound women's, history for the UFC. But I guess not, because Holly Holm just took a fight. She's booked with Norma Dumont, right? Who was that supposed to be that last fight? She just took it at 145. So I don't know what the hell is going on there, man. And I guess they just got to keep that double champ status for Nunes. I don't know, man. But last question before we get out of here, AJ. Do you think that the surging Delta variant of COVID-19 will keep events localized to the USA for the foreseeable future, man? We know that the UFC has been they tried to do a London show. It already said, nope, we got to bring it back to Vegas. Bellator was trying to do London as well. They're trying to do Russia. It sucks because it felt like we're just getting back out there, right? They say one of the biggest, most distinct home field advantage, if that's what you call it in the fight game, right, is Brazil, right? Because they'll literally be like, you're going to die, like we're going to kill you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to fight as a non-Brazilian in Brazil because they're just treacherous out there, man. They really get down with their Brazilian fighters. So being that U.S. fighters are getting a pretty big advantage, man, all of these, but this is a United States-based company, so it makes sense. But do you think that that's going to happen, man? Las Vegas, they're just they put back a mask mandate. I think Los Angeles did as well. Not like everybody got to wear it, but like employees, if you work indoors, you have to wear it and stuff. So we went from nothing to we're starting to do something to even parts in Florida are starting to do masks and stuff, man. So just give me your take on what the future of non-domestic UFC events are going to be looking like for the rest of the year.
Unfortunately, I think they're going to be very few and far between. I personally, I don't watch the news that much. I get it all from outside sources, so I'm not big on it. And I thank God that I'm moving to Texas, where they basically don't care anymore. Yeah. But I definitely think it's going to be rough. I think what we're going to see is a lot of outside fighters try to move into America because they got to get payday, man. They got to get paid somehow. And unless you're coaching or doing regional scene work, but that's a huge drop down from the big show. So I think we're not going to be able to see many outside promotion, no way we're going to be going to New Zealand in quite a long time. Same thing with Europe, Russia, all of those places. We're just not going to be able to see it because it's so locked down. So I think a lot of those fighters are going to have to start making their way over here, which is good for, American fighting. That's going to be good for us over here. It's kind of sad to see, though. I like this. It's a world organization, and like you said, it is an American company. But I like the fact that we're fighting all over the world, and it gets like a little more, territorial. It's fighting like U.S. versus China, or we have the Rose versus Wei Li Zhang, like the whole crazy stuff. I like that. I like the turmoil, and I like the what's the word? I like the feelings it brings up and the emotion it draws out of people when you think like, oh, this dude, like he's Colombian, like I'm Colombian, bro. Like, oh, you know, that's like you can instantly bond with somebody that's like that. So I think it's bad for the sport, but we're going to see a lot more just US based fighters coming out now, and probably a lot more people moving in.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more, man. And you took the words out of my mouth. I literally think that's exactly what's going to happen. It's unfortunate, but if you're smart and you live overseas and you really want to make the UFC your career or Bellator, stuff like that, you got to come to the States, man. You got to set up camp here for a while. You know what I mean? Just even you'll see, I think it was a couple of people, I can't remember it off the top of my name, but some people in the New Zealand area, some people from Australia, some people from all those areas are like, yeah, I had to come down to the States, man, from Brazil, from Mexico, all that. You know, they're like, I couldn't get the same training where I live and all that good stuff. You know, even Cheeto Vera, man, he's like, I just couldn't get the same training in Ecuador, so I had to come to the States. You know, it is what it is. Come to California, all that. But that's the news wire, folks, man. Before we get out of here, AJ, I got one final question for you, my man. As you can see in the poster in the corner, we got UFC 265 as our next event. Derrick Lewis versus Cyril Gane for the interim heavyweight championship, my man. I want to ask you this. This is regarding the main card that we're getting, because we've had Amanda Nunes versus Julia Pena, canceled, right? Nunez got COVID, speaking of what we were just talking about. But I'm going to save the main card bout order, and I want you to tell me worth pay-per-view or not. You know, worth $70 or not. So we got number 2, Derrick Lewis versus Cyril Gane. Number 3, like I said, interim heavyweight championship. Co-main, we got number 5, Jose Aldo versus number 9, Pedro Munoz. That should be a banger. We got number 5, Michael Chiesa versus number 6, Vicente Luque. Man, I think you actually called that one out in your matchmaking. So shout out, watch our matchmaking, folks. And actually, I'll point to AJ because that was him, right? There we go, right over there. Number 10, Tiny Tornado Tisha Torres, man, versus number 12, Angela Overkill Hill. As you could see, folks, I got the shirt on. You know who I'm rocking with already. Obviously, I got to be unbiased and objective and stuff, so I will be on the show. But right now, you know who I'm rocking with. You dig. Who's rocking in my heart, man. And then to conclude, the 5th bout on that one, we have Song Yadong versus Casey Kenny, the formerly ranked Casey Kenny. Not ranked anymore, but the man is a problem nonetheless. Worth $70, or do you think it's just a really good fight night card?
I would actually say worth it. I would say worth it. I think there's some really good, like, kind of like sleeper fights on that. Maybe not a lot of people know about them, but man, Song Yadong, Casey Kenny, that's going to be insane. Overkill Hill showing up. It's going to be a good fight. I think the worst, or I guess most overrated fight of that whole thing is the main event. Yeah. We're going to see Jose Aldo go at it again, which is absolutely insane, man. I'm super excited for that one as well. The fact that he's still doing it that old, it's going to be crazy. I say buy the card. Hit us up. Let us know what you think in the comments about it.
There we go, folks. So that just sets us up for tuning back in on Friday for our next preview show. You know what it is. This was episode number 68 of the Bloody Water Podcast. And listen, folks, drop a like, subscribe. You see all the little decals here. And if you're listening, folks, we're letting you know where to go, bloodywaterpodcast.com. Follow me on Instagram at D496, AJ at _ENT_AJ. And lastly, follow us on Bloody Water Podcast, literally on Instagram. You know what it is, all the good stuff there, folks. Tune back in on Friday. That is it for us. And until next time, peace.